It's part 5, and we're looking at now muscle tissue physiology. We just did the morphology, and now we have to consider the physiology and the regulatory natures of how muscle works. Okay, so on the preceding page here, as you can see, we actually have an underlined section right here. There it is. A motor unit consists of one motor neuron and all the muscle fiber that it innervates or supplies. It's the definition of a motor unit, and I'll be asking you that question in some upcoming quiz coming to you soon. Here's the picture that we looked at in our last part about two different motor units, and you'll notice that we have motor neurons coming out of the anterior horn, the gray matter here, of the spinal cord, and one is going to these muscle cells, and then the other one is going to a different set, so we can recruit different groups of muscle cells. Okay, then we come to this next page, and we're considering the idea now of a muscle twitch. And what you'll notice here is that we're dealing with milliseconds. This is thousandths of a second. So the twitch happens, and across what is 100 milliseconds is a tenth of a second. So things are pretty much done in a tenth of a second. Are you with me on that? So this is a fifth of a tenth of a second right there. So to get up near toward the peak, or a third of 1/10 of a second. Notice that as part of this twitch here, this is the time in which it's occurring. This is the percentage of maximum tension. So, and we're considering maybe just one cell or one motor unit in this case. We get the single stimulus. Now notice nothing is happening at first, and the chart here, the graph is accounting for that. It's referred to as the latent period. So in your imagination, you have to imagine that the sarcomeres, the units of contraction, are shortening, but they're not pulling on the bone yet. First, they're pulling on all of the connective tissue, cells and groups and things until they're pulled taut. And then once the connective tissue is pulled taut, then you pull on the bone. Okay, so in this case, we don't notice the tension. We can't measure the tension until we get that connective tissue all taut. And it's very brief, but it's there. It exists. Okay, then we have the building of the tension. Then we have the relaxation on the far side of the peak of the tension right there. Okay, so I want you to be aware of that. They show us here in slightly more prosaic terms about relaxation and the contraction aspect, the stimulus, and so on. So at any rate, let's move on and consider that twitch happens at different rates in different muscles, and particularly there's probably all three of these rates in any given muscle, but usually muscles are dedicated in some way to maximizing the type of muscle cells that have a certain kind of twitch. So here we have rapid twitch, and here we have a medium type of twitch. Here we have a slow twitch, and I have slight smudges here describing some things. But at any rate, your eyes actually move very quickly in terms of this. In fact, when we get to vision at some point, I'll refer to a form of perception as involving the movement of the eyes in a kind of saccades, which is just extremely rapid picking up of little points of interest that you put in your central vision, and you sort of create a picture by silkscreen, as it were. Okay, so extraocular muscles. Here we have some sprinting muscles in the leg, the gastrocnemius. Here we have some walking or very slow jogging muscles called the soleus. Now, usually the ones that are the slowest are actually the most oxygenated and the most built for endurance, whereas the quick twitch more often is less, how shall I say, aerobic and more subject to fatigue. So there's that type of thing. That word is supposed to be running, and this word is supposed to be walking. Okay, I might need to make a little correction there so you can see it. So what they're doing with this graph here is they're comparing it to this graph here, where we have a stimulus, and before we're able to completely relax, we get another stimulus. And that just means that we're not only stimulating the muscle cells that we previously stimulated, but we're actually spreading the stimulus at this point. Because these have not relaxed, we're recruiting more. And we're going to recruit more. And we're going to recruit more. Right? So the idea here is that we haven't relaxed, and we're going to recruit more. We have not yet relaxed this particular group, including these two, and we're going to recruit more. So by not letting the muscle relax and giving a new stimulus, we're moving closer and closer toward what is referred to here as unfused tetany. Okay, tetany is in essence, it's a cramp. Okay, and that's being depicted here by this graph, is that we have not only presented a second stimulus, but it's a second stimulus during the increase in tension. So we haven't gotten to even the peak yet, and we have another stimulus. So by this means, we're going straight up, or as straight up as possible in this particular muscle, and recruiting more and more and more motor units until there's nothing more to recruit. And if we keep the stimulus going, we keep the tetany in what is called a fused or complete tetany, and then finally the muscle fatigues. It fatigues because it's losing out on the biochemistry, the substrates of interest like ATP and other substrates that we'll be learning about when we get to muscle metabolism. Okay. Then there's one that the book used to present, but they stopped presenting it at a certain point, and I think I've smudged things here. That's too bad. The deal here is that this is referred to as a trap staircase effect, and it's how things warm up. So if you were ever an athlete, especially like a cross-country athlete, and coach had you run 10 100-meter wind sprints in a row, and there were those of you on the team that took it really seriously and made an all-out effort, and you ran it in that speed the first time, and then you stretched out, walked, turned around, and did it again. And this time, when you and your pals raced against each other, you got a better result. And then you walked for a few seconds, stretched out, and you did it again a third time. And the third time you did even better, right? So this is a very common finding when you're on a team and you're doing 10 100-meter wind sprints, is that the first three are variable, and then once you hit about the third, that's the fastest that you run. And they pretty much stay there and usually then decline after about the sixth or seventh wind sprint. Okay, why are we getting better results? If we're supposed to be racing and we're doing the very best we can, it's kind of like mind-boggling that your second and your third are going to be faster, right? And so what that tells you is that the real gold medalist for the Olympics is actually going to warm up before they actually try to do their best effort. And it's always tricky, exactly how much do I warm up to get the best result, and how much do I do that might actually cause me to have a decline from the best result. And the deal here is that you're increasing calcium permeability with your warm-up. So if you recall the what we were talking about before, which had to do with the twitch cycle, right? So the binding cycle where we bind, we have the contraction, we have the relaxation, we have hydrolysis back to the beginning. So the contraction cycle lets us know that calcium is playing this outsized role, and permeability really matters.